Okay, so I had some folks were reached out to me over our break, over our Easter break, uh, asking about assignment 5 with the pivot tables, and I realized I had not done a video on this one. We had started it in class, and I was considering. I kind of looked at it and said, "Well, let me go back and just get you started. I'll walk you through some of the mechanics of it. Hopefully, we'll put you on the right track." All right. So in looking at the instructions for assignment 5, and eventually comes up. It's no, here we go. Finally. Whew. All right. So for this case, what we have is we have a company that specializes in office supplies and furniture, and customer, you know, customers range from individual customers to small businesses to corporate organizations, and the sales regions they support are both in the United States and Canada. And you are, for this for purposes of this case, an intern working for the Canadian division of GSS, Grenadier Superstore. All right. So we have a file. So our analysis is going to center on an Excel file containing order data from 2009 to 2012. And one of the things they've asked us is to analyze, look at the data that's in this spreadsheet. So the data we're presented is in a spreadsheet format, and to convert it and make it basically leverage the capabilities of tables and pivot tables to do some analysis of it. All right, so that's our given here. So let's look at the data itself. So the data itself is here. All right, and it is, as we can see, a pretty healthy Excel spreadsheet. So if we look, we actually have something on the order of 9,000 rows in our spreadsheet. Something that have 8,400 rows. So a fair amount of data, and more data than we would care to try to process by hand. And so what we're going to do is uh, we're going to leverage the capabilities that we have in terms of using tables and pivot tables to take a big chunk of data here and turn it into an analytical report. Okay, so the first order of business is we're going to take this. If we look at our um, what we're requested to do is we want to create 3 pivot tables. All right, one pivot table is going to be called total sales. One pivot table is going to be called shipping cost, and the third pivot table is going to be customer. And we're going to answer questions associated with each one. All right. So let's look at so let's actually build out the tables. All right. So if we go into Excel, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to insert a table. All right. So the step to create a pivot table is step 1 is you create a table, and then 2, you convert that table into a pivot table. All right, so what I'm going to do is my first table is I'm going to say turn it into a table, and you'll note what it automatically did is just selected all the data that was in the spreadsheet. All right, we also have a little tick here that says my table has headers. Okay, so we need to, and the headers, if you'll note, is the first row. All right, so the first row we're going to use to assign the name for each column. So we'll be able to figure out what we have here. Right. So I'm just going to do OK. All right. And what we've done is we've now we've converted our table into a pivot table. Now, what we can do, a couple different ways to do this. All right. So let me tell you what. Let's actually we will undo this. Okay. And what I'm going to do is all right. If I do table, if I'm in the table, once I click into the table, I get the table tools. All right, and if I want to change it back into just a bunch of data, I'll change it back to a bunch of data. All right, and it should. Yeah, so I think it is, yeah, so if we look at the data, if I click into it now, I no longer see the table. It's no longer a table object. It's just simply a bunch of data in a database, or excuse me, a bunch of data in a spreadsheet. All right, so let's do this. Let's make some copies here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click my tab. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'll do a move or copy. And I'll move it to the end. I'll create a copy. All right, and I'm just going to create two copies. I'll create an orders copy 1. Right click again, make an order copy 2, create a copy, move to end, and then do the same thing for the third time. All right, so I have 3 tables, so I have 3 spreadsheets, or 3 worksheets inside of my workbook here. All right, so let's look at, let's rename these, so we'll put them in the order. So the first thing we want to do, if we look at our directions, the first one we're going to call total sales. All right, first one's total sales. And I'm just going to right click it and rename it. Call it total sales. The next one, we'll click that one. And we're going to make this one, we're going to call this one shipping costs. And the third one, I'm going to call the third one customer. All right. All right. So what I've done is I've simply taken this, our initial spreadsheet, because I wanted to keep the original spreadsheet intact, so in case I have to I need to go back or refresh or do something like that. So what we'll do is we're going to create 3 separate spreadsheets and these are spreadsheets, these are not tables. So what we'll do is then we're going to go into each one of these worksheets and convert them to be a table. And the way we do this, we go to Insert. I'm going to say Insert Table. I'll say, do you want data for the table? We'll say yes. Okay. All right. So now what I have is I now have my first table is defined. Do the same thing here. I'm going to do an insert table. It's now table. And then finally for customer, insert table. All right, so now if I click each of these, what you'll see is each one of these is now, and what I can do is I can change the colors and format. So let me change in this table. Let's change our format. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now, though, all right, so I've got 3 tables. So if I click into each one of these, what we'll see is in this workbook, this first one is called Table 2 by default. Table 3 and Table 4. And what I can do, if I'm inclined, I can come up here to Table 2 and I can call this one Tote Sales. And I can call this one Ship Cost. And for the third one, we'll just call it Customer, C-U-S-T. And what we can now do is I can now write formulas in Excel and basically plug these names in, put these names into the formulas, and it'll process all the data in the table as if it's a formula. All right. All right, so I'm just gonna. So we'll just work with this. So I've got these 3 tables. So let's work with the so we'll go back. We'll look at our sales questions. All right. So what I want to do is, okay, I've created a table. Now what I want to do is I want to turn this table into a pivot table. All right. Remember I said two-step process. So what I will do is I will say insert, and I'm going to say insert pivot table. And it'll ask us, okay, what do I want to use? Okay, I want to use this tote sales, which is what I had used before, and I'll put it into a new worksheet. And I'll call this tote sales pivot. All right. So all the data, so what happens is with pivot tables, when I create a pivot table, all of the data is actually, we still have access to all the data that was in the spreadsheet. It does not show up by default. What will happen is we will select what we want to present in a report. Okay, and we'll use this control right here, this pivot table fields array over here. So I can do something along the lines of, if I say, well, let's look at our problem. So we look at the problem. We say one pivot table, total sales, some total sales breakdown by region, product category. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a report, region, product, and category. All right, and we're going to do sales. So we do sales and then have that hierarchy. All right. So what we'll need for this report then we'll need the sales data. All right, and then so we'll summarize the sales, and then what we'll do is we want to break that out into a hierarchy, and the hierarchy is going to be we want to see region, product, and category. So I'm going to go region. I want to do product. Product category. Let's see. So this will look like this. Let me do this. So region and product. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm summarizing everything with the control break on region. And then within that, I'm breaking it out by product category. All right, and I can do things like I can format the cells. So right now, by default, all of my data is defined as general in here. Well, I'm just going to make it, we'll just make it and we'll turn it into a we're going to make this currency. All right, so we got commas and dollar signs and stuff like that because we're talking about sales, a summary of sales. Okay. So let's look at our questions now. What we said was, I want to say what was the total sales figure included in this data set? Okay, the total sales is going to be this value right here, this grand total. So that's 14,915,600.82. All right, and then we've done assuming we've broken it out by region, which category had the lowest sales? All right. So what I can do, let's look at our spreadsheet here. So we want to know what category had the lowest sales. All right. So what I have it broken out by category as within regions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my category, I'm going to move it up top. There we go. All right. So so if I want to look at category and region, so I can look at this and say which category had the lowest sales. If we look at our spreadsheet, these are our categories. Have the lowest sales. It would be the office supplies, all right, because that's a three. That's a 3. So the way you read this is the summary, all right, and then this is the detail below it, all right, and then so if I do if I simply roll these up, I'll see what the totals are of the categories. So the number for the office supplies is the lowest product category, all right, and then the third question we asked. Third question we ask is, which region had the highest sales? So the way we can determine that is we'll go back and we'll actually reverse our the order of the rows, or the order of the hierarchy. All right. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my regions first. I'll sum them up. And actually, the other thing I can do is I can actually do a sort. And I'll come over here and we'll go to sort and filter. And what we want to do is, so the question is, we're looking to address which had the highest sales. All right. So for highest sales, we want we want from high to low. So we'll want to add everything up. It'll be the highest numbers to the lowest numbers. So we look at our spreadsheet again. We go to our sort and filter. High to low. All right, so the highest region is going to be the West. All right. And the other ones will be sorted down, adding up to the 14 million at the end. All right. So that was our first analysis. All right. So the thing about a pivot table is pivot tables lets us we can change the format of the report, the organization of the report. And if I put different values on the rows, all right, versus the columns, I can do a summary of the sales. If I stack up my rows, what I will get will be the hierarchy of these things. I'll see everything, all product categories within a particular region, broken out by region, or I can flip these around, or I can add another value. So if I wanted to see everything that within, break this out by date. Now what I see is I have a date breakout, so I can see my quarter. I can see my data broken out in quarters, by years. All right, and I did that just simply by putting date. You're simply adding the date into our under the rows. So it's years, quarters, order date, and then region and product category. All right. So that's the first one. All right. So let's look at our next one here real quick. So for the next one, we're going to be looking at shipping costs. All right. So we've already created the pivot table. So what we want to do is we're going to, so I've created the table. Let's look at our pivot table for this. All right, so for shipping cost, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert, I'm going to create a pivot table for this. All right, and we'll use the shipping cost table, create a new worksheet, and I'm going to call this worksheet, let's see, let's call it ship pivot. All right. Not the most creative name, but it'll work. So I'm going to call this one ship pivot. Okay. All right. So if I click my pivot table, like two ways I can get that. So I'm out of I'm out of the pivot table. So this is the working area one by default. If I click Analyze Data, it'll pop back up. Oh, hang on a sec. No, not that. If I click this, it'll pop back up. If I click into the pivot table, it will pull up what all the values are. All right, and let us manipulate and present what we want the report to look like. So let's look at this. Let's look at what we're asked to do here. Using the information, what was the total, what is the percentage shipping cost, percentage total shipping cost for low priority orders? All right. So we want to create a report showing shipping costs organized by ship mode and order priority. All right, so ship costs, ship mode, order priority. So ship costs, ship mode, order priority, and shipping mode. So I'm going to put that here. All right. All right, so I have a high, medium, low, not specified. And these are associated costs for the breakout. Once again, if I flip these around, I can see for each mode what I paid for each of these values, or what I paid broken out by each of these values here. All right, so let's see what we can work with here. So what was the percentage total shipping cost for low priority orders? So the percentage, which is, so we're going to look for low priority orders. So what we'll do is we'll flip these around. So organize everything by low priority orders. Okay. And then we would see the shipping percentage. So one of the things we'll have to do is we'll have to calculate the percentage total shipping cost for low priority orders. All right, so let's see. So let's see if, so the percentage total shipping cost, I think what we're asking for as we're looking at this, we're looking to do a calculation, a little bit of a calculation here. All right, where we need to figure out the percentage of the shipping cost versus I think our, let's see, I think of our sales. Would that be right? So it would be the shipping cost divided by the sales. All right, so in this case, it would be, so what I could do is I could add up our sales cost. Let's add our sales cost here. Some of our sales. And so we want to look at low. And I think the way we would do is now I've got our shipping cost and we've got our sum of sales. Right? So the numbers are correct. So we're doing, we're doing dollars to dollars, not dollars to units. So doing dollars to dollars, we're doing the cost analysis. And I'm going to just change this. We'll make it currency. Hopefully it makes a little more sense. And what we're going to focus on right here. We're going to focus on this low priority. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a calculation here. And what I'll do is I'm going to say equals let me do this. So equals. See if this will let me do this. Divided by this. And let's see if that gives me a number. It does. And if I take this calculation here, let's see if it'll let me, if it will do this properly. Well, no, it did not. Because it did not, it's not, because it's inside the pivot table. So I think what, for our purposes, is what we'll have to do is actually replicate this. So we'll say equal to cell value. As you see, it gives us our, it actually gives us it in terms of accessing the data from within the pivot table divided by this. And we'll give us, so this will be same deal, equals this value divided by this value. Not quite. So it doesn't work exactly like the way Excel does because you're working inside the pivot table. So the formula calculation is going to be a little bit different. And so we'll just do, once again, we'll do an equal sign for the formula of this divided by this. And the value. And then finally the last one, equal sign of this divided by this. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll reformat this into percentages. All right. So the question we're asked here is, what's the total percentage cost for the low priority orders? All right. So that would be, actually we broke out the detail here. So if I do this, so that actually is medium, so I have to do the calc, I have to clear this out. I want to do it here because this is the real number. So I want to do equal sign low divided by value, return, format this as a percentage. All right. So the answer is, for low, it's 0.70. All right. And then for our, let me take a look here. The lowest percentage using which shipping method, just the next selection of the next item, the lowest one would be regular air, which is 0.63. All right. So that's our second pivot table. The third one is, you said, with the customer. So let's create our third pivot table. Insert pivot table. We'll say OK, and we'll call this cust. I'll change this to B. Um, it's not letting me do what I want for it to do. We'll work around that for right now. All right, so let's look at what the problem is asking for. Problem is asking for the most valuable customers. All right, so customer names who placed orders. All right, so the customer, using the customer names who placed orders during 2012. For each customer, show total number of orders, total sales, total profit, and a calculated field called percentage K profit, using profit divided by sales. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create, let's see, customer name, total number of orders. All right, so let's do this. So let's go back, look at our table. And what I want to do is I want to create the customer name. So actually is a count of customer name. And for the customer, what we'll do is we will collect a couple bits of information. So I want the customer, total number of orders, sales, profit. Orders, sales, and profit. Customer name. So I don't want to do values. What I want to do is I want to show these as the customer name. And if you look, when we did that, we actually gave us a breakdown of everything alphabetical, all the customers. Now what we can do is we can use, and we have our some of their sales, some of the orders, quantities, and some of the profits. All right. So what else are they asking for? Are they looking for the product? Customers, customer name, orders, total number of orders, total sales, total profit, and then percentage profit. So total. So we have different. We also have different business classes. All right. So we have small business, corporate, consumer, home office. All right. So we'll go back and see how we'll represent this. I'm going to come back, and what I'm going to say is we have a customer segment. So let's add our customer segment to the report. And I'm going to create, I don't want the count. And what I'll do is I'll actually will create, we'll change this around a bit. We'll put the customer segments up top, consumer, and then all the names, and then all of the details. All right. And as you see, if I come up here, I can then customer, corporate, home office, small business. Okay, my grand total, and I can do we'll make this a I'm going to make that a make that currency. We'll make this currency. And we'll make this next one number. Just so make it a little bit easier to read. And I can also change the, let's see. All right, how's that? Nope, and I don't need the 00, so we'll no, this one. I got whole numbers with a comma. Okay, so I think it got us what we want. All right, so here's our report. Now what we can do is we can go back and we're looking to do a, let's see, which customer had the lowest sale. So at this point, what we can do is within each one of these, we can do a sort, which will give us the numbers we're looking for, either higher or lower or least profitable. All right, and which sales figure is the most profitable. Let's look at our calculated vehicle percentage profit using profit divided by sales. So in that case, I believe what we're going to do is put our table here. Let's see. I believe I'm going to do a rows. And the third one, I think this is going to be. I mean, you can do this. You can do this brute force. I'm just trying to see how we do the adding the calculation. One of the challenges you run into with doing pivot tables, they operate in kind of their own universe. So so when if you try to do things like apply normal formulas, what will happen is you'll see, like for example, as we saw here when we were doing the calculation on the outside, if I say if it's an equal, say for example, if I make it equal to, is it profit divided by sales? Profit divided by sales. So if I do this as a equal profit divided by sales. Oh, hang on. Yeah. I don't think that's right. So it would be equal profit divided by sales. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let us do it that. Equal. Oh, let us do that. All right. Now let's see. Now, that's an interesting question. Let's do these. We'll do these for these other ones here. So we have the high number. So I'll do an equal profit divided by sales. Done. Equal profit divided by sales. equal profit divided by sales. And I don't know if I don't know. See, it's not, this column is simply, this is simply a number. This is a calculated number. So this might not necessarily give me what I'm looking for because it has to be done within the pivot table itself. But we'll just play around with this just a little bit. Okay, equal all right, now if I expand this out, you'll see it didn't take that. But if I extended the table, let's go to the table. Say if I want to add my table design, if I can create, let's see if I can, will let me, no, it's not letting me do that. Now I was trying to see if I could just hook these together, but this is a column. So the idea of a pivot table is a an enclosed environment. All right, so everything we do is done within this area right here. All right, and I think we can calculate. Let's see. Just trying to see if I can create a new field value. Design. Here we go. So I'm going to do a calculated field. I'll call it field 1, and it will be is it profit divided by, let's see, it will be profit divided by sales. Right. So it will be profit divided by sales. Okay. Is there already an assignment? Yeah. We'll replace it. All right, so it actually did. So it created a field called field 1. So that's our number here. And clobbered the stuff I had already calculated. So that's okay. So it's now, I created a calculated field using those two values. I'll format it just so we have it. It's going to be a percentage. All right. So what we have now is I've created, if I look at my table, I have a report and where the customer name is within the customer segment. So I have my total numbers for my customer, corporate, home office, small business. All right, so I look at my questions. So the first question is going to be, what small business customer had the lowest sales? All right, so let's look at our small business customer. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand it out and the smallest sales. And if I do a sort and filter, so I want the smallest to largest in this case. I don't think it gave me what I wanted here. Here we go. Yeah, I think I put it on the first entry and said sort. So the name of the person who is the smallest sales is Jeremy, for small businesses, Jeremy Fanny with $85.72. Which corporate customer has the highest number of orders? All right, so we'll just come back here, just do kind of a similar thing. We'll close this one up. We'll say corporate. And in this case, what we'll do is we'll sort this out. So it will be the number of, make sure we got this right, numbers of orders. Okay, so in this case, we want the highest numbers of orders. So looking at the right value. Numbers of orders will be here. And and what it will do is we'll sort this, and we'll sort this into a high-low. From highest to lowest. So in this case, it's Roy Scaria was 773. All right. Which customer was least profitable based upon dollars? All right. So we'll say consumer customer. We'll close this up. Consumer customer, least profitable. All right, so I'm going to sort this into least profitable. So I'll take lowest to highest. Again, smallest to largest. And it's Dave Kipp. It cost us $11,116.63 on sales. All right, and finally, our last question. I'm going to be which sales figure of the most profitable? Let's see. What is the sales figure of the most profitable home office customer based upon percentage? All right. So what we'll do here is we'll sort it on our profit percentage. And we want the highest because we want the most profitable. All right, so we'll do our profit percentage here. We're looking for home office. Home office. This is the profit percentage. We'll sort this one. We want the highest. High-low. All right. And the order, and what we're asked for is the sales figure. And the sales figure for this is going to be sales is $14,132.98 for Gary Hansen. Right, here's the highest profitability, calculated as the percentage of profit and against sales. All right, so that really is the idea is with a pivot table, creating a pivot table, and by really just organizing, over here on these, on the column. So what will happen is I can create a typical report would have, it would be grouped by one, we could group it by one value with multiple columns. So one row, multiple columns. If I put multiple values in here, what I will do is I will organize it into a hierarchy. And I can break it out into different layers. So I can have customer segment, I can have, customers within each segment is what I'm getting here. If I flip this around, pull that down, what I'll get is, if I had a relationship where well, in this case here, what I have is I actually have some customers who are in different categories. So Karen Carlisle here has numbers, has data that is recorded as for her home office and also for corporate. So there's some interesting, some interesting dynamics as we're looking at this. It's not all, one-to-one relationships. We have, some. It looks like we have some breakouts in which we discovered simply by changing the organization of the, the organization, the structure of the hierarchy of how we group it. All right. So hopefully this will get you guys through, this particular exercise here. You try to, kind of follow through what I've done and recreate it yourself, with your stuff. If there's questions, we can talk about it in class on Wednesday. All right. Thanks a lot. That's about it.